Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the Apostate Prophet. I hope you're having a fantastic day. How is everybody doing? I scheduled the live stream today for 15 minutes later than I usually do, simply because I can. no, no, because I was actually not entirely sure if we are going to do a live stream today. Seemed a bit difficult. But then in the end, I decided, no, I have to do this. We have to do this. The well-being of the planet, of all humanity, depends on these live streams. So with that, I became the hero that I am supposed to be, and then I did this. I scheduled this live stream anyway.
It does take a lot of years of just relentlessly going through this stuff when you don't even feel like it in order to make a difference in the Dawa Lai community. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you think, we exposed this 75 different ways. What else is there to do? Should we just give up because people aren't listening? And then all of a sudden, okay, the argument has been debunked, yeah. And then it's like, wait, it did work. It did work. It's just slow. It's just really slow, and you just got to keep it up forever, apparently.
That is absolutely true. Absolutely true. Well, very often I also think, I genuinely do think, I see people's reactions to things, and I think, what is even the point? I mean, people go for the dumbest things in the world, and none of it really. I mean, why do I even bother? But then I still come back here and think,
yeah, I'm kind of like,
show must go on.
People are like, Sneeko converted or something like that. I'm like, if you're dumb enough to fall for that, you kind of deserve what you get.
I can't say. That's what I think. That's what I think. That is absolutely what I think. But yes, so that's why I didn't have this live stream scheduled early on. I only did it like 15 minutes in advance, and then.
Brother makes a good point.
But it makes a very good point. We're going to review Zakir Naik proving to us that the Quran is indeed ahead of science. And thereby showing to us that the Quran is miraculous, that it tells us humans a lot of things that we do not know and that we will find out in the future. And the Quran is therefore necessarily the word of Allah.
Wait, is he saying this is stuff that's going to be found out in the future, or that has been found out?
Both.
Okay, interesting. So I have not seen the video that AP wants to go through. I watched the first, what was that, like 10 seconds, right as we were setting up, and we both started cracking up laughing. So I was like, all right, I'll just watch this while we're streaming.
We will be watching.
It's going to be powerful. I might convert.
Yeah. Hey, don't be sarcastic. Fareed might be watching.
David Wood is thinking about converting based on the powerful video by Zakir Naik. Here's the clip of him saying it.
So why is he denying it now? Clearly he wasn't sincere the entire time.
Geniuses. So powerful. Dawa is so powerful, man. Dawa turbocharges your brain.
Yeah. I'm not making this up for those who have missed it. Fareed frequently takes sarcastic remarks that we make very seriously and then rants about them. Like when David says powerful, just as a filler and sarcastically, he's like, so why did he say it is powerful? That guy is a complete.
I feel like we need a sarcasm translator with us at all times, like right in the middle. And like whenever we're sarcastic, pause. What David really meant there was, and then go through it.
Yeah. So the Quran is the head of science. And we're going to find out now why that is absolutely true. First off, I haven't heard much of Zakir Naik recently, and I was wondering if he's still alive or if he's dead. You informed me that he's still alive.
As far as I know, yeah. I mean, don't you think we would have heard if Zakir Naik died or something?
I don't know.
I mean, his career died when all these younger Dawa guys took off, and we can fix everything. We can fix all the lies.
Yeah.
You don't people don't realize. I've said this many times before, but the older generation So like the Ahmed Deedat and the Zakir Naiks and so on, and Shabir Ali early on, they were much smarter than the newer generation in that they generally refused to debate any sort of sensitive Muslim topic because they understood if we get on stage, even if we think we could defend something like, let's say, Muhammad's marriage to Aisha, even if we think we could defend that, most of the audience doesn't know anything about it. And therefore, simply by discussing it, the audience is learning about it. And we don't want to do that. So they they tended to focus mainly on Christian topics. Like, in fact, back in the day, they usually only wanted to debate Christian topics. Occasionally you would get a, Quran versus the Bible in science or something like that. But notice they were smarter in the sense that, hey, most of the world's population still doesn't know about this, and we want to keep them all in a state of ignorance. So do not bring up, Muhammad and Zainab, Muhammad and Aisha, or any of these things. Don't bring them up. But the younger generation comes along and they're like, oh, but we can answer this stuff. We got the powerful Dawah. We can answer this stuff. And then they start addressing it and answering it, not realizing other people are watching going, whoa, so it does teach that.
Yeah.
Whoa, I always heard people say it teach that, but now the Muslims are admitting it. And then, they eventually go full Daniel Hakikachu, and his followers are cheering him on. Yay, brilliant defense of child marriage, Daniel, which most people still didn't know that we defend, but now they do. And so one big epic disaster.
It is fantastic. It's funny that Zakir Naik spent decades
Look at this. Look at this. Zakir Naik versus a 9-year-old Christian boy who's definitely who's a full-grown man according to Islam. Why shouldn't I debate him? He's a full-grown man like Aisha.
I find it so funny. I just search for Zakir Naik and I see these videos, and like Rahul debates with Dr. Zakir Naik. Who is Rahul? It's just some random guy.
That's what I mean. And meanwhile, notice he'll do these discussions and so on with any random person that no one's ever heard of.
Yeah, Mary challenges Dr. Zakir. Who's Mary? Just some random person in the audience, I think.
Yeah. And then meanwhile, every Christian debater that I can think of has challenged him to debate. He rejects them all. And so if the rule is, if you're an actual debater, he won't go near you. If you're some random person, he's happy to have a discussion with you.
Look at this. One of the most popular videos in view count recently is 1.7 million. All the others have like lower view counts here. This masturbation is not haram or sinful. So that's, of course, a very, very important topic to always.
You think they say that masturbation is haram? But how did Muhammad get semen all over him? I need to work on my Zakir Naik, man.
The last thing I remember from him is him making a video several years ago in response to you. We talked about that. Was like David Wood doesn't have the caliber to debate Zakir Naik because Zakir Naik is famous, and David Wood just wants to be famous. That's why he wants to debate me.
It's funny because people still think of Zakir Naik as this champion debater. I think the younger generation would run circles around him in debate. Yeah. I don't think he was ever a good debater at all. He just made sure he never faced an actual debater in his entire career.
Yeah,
it's like, it would be like us picking some random Muslim from a mosque who's never debated before. We destroy him, and then we run back and say, we've destroyed the best debaters that Islam has to offer. And Muslims would go, what? You face some random guy? Yeah, great. That's what Zakir Naik did, ladies and gentlemen. It's exactly what Zakir Naik did. Never spent his entire career being regarded as a champion debater without actually facing one single experienced Christian debater ever.
Here, Justin said that was King Julian voice. King Julian, the character from Madagascar. Actually, King Julian's voice is spoken by Zakir Naik. You didn't know this, but yeah, Zakir Naik is the voice actor behind King Julian in the Madagascar series.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, you should be familiar. It's amazing.
That's one of the animated, right?
Yeah. It's the only one where Zakir Naik acts as a voice actor.
Is that the one with Chris Rock?
I'm not sure.
I'm trying to think of it.
I don't know. It's with those. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so let's start looking at this video here.
That's a very good question. That I've mentioned many things about science indirectly, saying all this was already discovered earlier. And if Quran says something and after science has discovered, so what's the use? Can you tell me something which science hasn't discovered? Brother, that's the reason the Arabs were advanced in the field of astronomy. Why? Because they read the Quran.
That's the reason the Arabs.
Now,
they read the Quran, and
it's just impossible to get through these first moments here without.
Guys, when you think of the most advanced people in the world in astronomy, who do you think of? Arabs. And how did they become the leading astronomers? The Quran. They just read the Quran and they went out and they already knew it all. They already knew how the universe worked. You know, sunsets in a muddy pool.
And look at the reasoning. Look at the reasoning. He goes on. He goes on to justify this.
Because they read the Quran. The Quran has a lot of information on astronomy. So when they read the Quran, they try and do more investigation. They do more research. And that's how they come to know. Quran is a...
So, okay.
They say telegraphic message?
I don't know why he says that. What way is he?
Telegraphic message.
It's a telegraphic message. The Quran is a telegraphic message of science for the readers, and that's why the Arabs back then were very advanced in this. I feel like I'm listening to an insane person here, but that is very. The Arabs were not advanced in different fields of science because they read the Quran, and the Quran gave them lots of new information, or I don't know, encouraged them to do a lot of great things. They were vastly, first and foremost, I would say, you can give your take on that, advanced in that at a certain time, many centuries ago, because they conquered a lot of regions and a lot of cultures where science was advanced, and they took from those cultures and they translated and researched and analyzed and preserved texts which were advanced far beyond Islam, which the cultures that they conquered already had. So the Muslim scientists, not Arab scientists, the Muslim scientists simply built on what they had there. Sure, they also had a motive of researching and finding out the truth and thinking, maybe even in connection to the Quran, thinking Allah gives us all these signs, let us research all these signs, they are amazing and all that. But they didn't read the Quran and thereby obtain this amazing knowledge of the world around us.
Yeah, there's a pattern over and over again that Muslims would conquer. They'd conquer an area. They would get access to the information that area had, and that might be information about mathematics, philosophy, science, and so on. And then the people who are interested in that, the scholars who are interested in that, would have to go and ask the Muslim leaders, can we do some investigating into this stuff to see if it can benefit Islam? And they would get permission. Yes, you could go and look at these works of philosophy to see what benefit you get from Islam. And then for a brief time, there would be a flourishing of something like philosophy or science or mathematics in the Muslim world. It inevitably was strangled. It would inevitably be suffocated. Why? Because there's this additional pressure on it to not be going beyond what Allah has said. Let me give you an example of this because it ties into what Zakir Naik is saying here. Read a couple passages from the Quran real quick. So Surah 20, verse 53, he who has made for you the earth like a carpet spread out. So the earth is like a carpet spread out. Surah 71:19, and Allah has made the earth for you as a carpet spread out. Surah 88:17 through 20. Do they never reflect on the camels and how they were created, the heaven, how it was raised on high, the mountains, how they were set down, the earth, how it was made flat? So that's obviously something you would want to interpret if you're a Muslim or come up with some alternative translation or something like that. But in Tafsir Jalalain, the two Jalals comment on that very verse, saying that the earth, how it was made flat. They comment, listen to the commentary, because this gives you the attitude of the actual Muslim, the experts in the Quran, how they were interpreting these, claims of scientists. As for his words, sutihat, laid out flat. So this is Tafsir Jalalain, commentary on Surah 88, verse 20. As for his word sutahat, laid out flat, this on a literal reading suggests that the earth is flat, which is the opinion of most of the scholars of the revealed law, and not a sphere as astronomers have it, even if this latter does not contradict any of the pillars of the law. So they're saying, notice what they're saying. They're saying you've got the astronomers and they say one thing, but those of us who are experts in the Quran, we know they got it wrong. And so they would let these guys go out and do their studies for a while. But notice there's always a conflict. There's the scholars of the Quran saying, hey, you guys are getting it wrong over there in science. And somehow Zakir Naik seems to think that reading the Quran is what made you the scientist.
Yeah. And notice the citation here, Tafsir Jalalain, that is from the 16th century. It is by Jalalain refers to two people named Jalal. The first one who wrote it, the other one who went over it after the first one died. Those two people both had the name Jalal, which is why it's called the two Jalals. And their interpretation of this Quran verse in the 16th century says that that those people who are scholarly in the correct way do still hold on to the idea that the earth is flat. And when you look at the earlier interpretations of the Quran, even when you look at Tabari, you find lots of instances where they strictly defend and reference primitive ideas about cosmology, such as that the sun actually goes somewhere and actually sets in a certain spring, and then they're discussing whether that spring is a dark spring or a muddy spring or a hot spring, and so on. So what Muslims actually got from reading the Quran was that the earth was flat, not that there is this giant universe out there which we need to study. Yeah.
See, the book of science only on one subject. In medicine, one subject only requires volumes. So if that way the Quran is, this Quran, most of the human beings, they don't like to read. Oh, such a big book. Medicine.
But by the way,
I have to get that part.
Yeah, that's a beautiful
The book of science.
This is a big book.
In medicine, one subject only requires volumes. So if that way the Quran is, this Quran, most of the human beings, they don't like to read. Oh, such a big book. So if God Almighty wrote in detail, then even a big building, you will require thousands of buildings to contain the message of the Quran.
Thousands of buildings to contain the message of the Quran.
Oh boy. I agree with him on one point. A lot of people don't want to read the Quran, especially a lot of Muslims really don't want to read the Quran. They think but it's not because it's a very big book. Now, people don't say,
No,
it's a
not.
very big book. No, it's a tiny book. I mean, it's
Yeah.
this. It's large print here, and this is it. This is
Yeah.
it. This is
Yeah,
all.
for comparison, I think it's about 2/3 the size of the New Testament. So not the
Yeah,
Bible, 2/3.
yeah.
It's smaller than the New Testament. The New Testament is about a quarter of the Bible, and the Quran is smaller than that. But notice what you just pointed out, that lots of Muslims don't read it. And this was actually surprising to me to find out that Muslims know so little about the Quran when you're in discussions with them. Usually, if you bring up a Quran verse to a Muslim, they have no clue what you're talking about. But that kind of flies in the face of their claim that, oh, it's such a powerful book and it's so eloquent and you could just spend all your time reading it because it's so beautiful. Really? You read it? No. Wait a minute. If it was this dazzlingly brilliant book, I mean, there have been some great books written down through history, and people kind of like to read really great books. People do. No one likes to read the Quran. So how wonderful do you think it really is?
Yeah, I can say from experience, and lots of others can say it too. I would love to appeal to actual data and have actual numbers in front of me. It would be amazing if there were polls by country showing how many Muslims have actually read the Quran, and how many of them have read it in a language they understand. But I've met very few Muslims besides myself when I was a Muslim who had actually read the whole Quran. In fact, I I only remember like one or two people who have read the Quran in its entirety in a language that they understand. One of those was a close friend of mine back then. Um, I haven't seen many other people, and many Muslims can tell you the same thing. It is just people don't read it. The value of it in Islam is that it should be recited, meaning read in the Arabic language, in the original language. So they learn to recite it, they memorize it, and even people who memorize it often don't properly read through the actual translation of it and try to understand it. It's and there is just no real incentive. Like it's not a page turner. It is not an interesting book. It is
It's the
repetitive.
opposite of a page
Talk
turner.
about it. Yeah, you just want to. It gets exhausting. It has all the qualities of a completely exhausting and boring book. It's repetitive. It jumps from topic to topic over and over again. It tells a story and then abruptly just cuts it off and it goes to something completely unrelated and so on.
Yeah, a page turner is a book where you got to find out what happens next. Like, oh, I just read this. Oh, what's about to happen? I really need to turn the page to find out what happens. And the Quran just isn't like that, because it's going to be a completely different topic on the next page, and it's going to be just as bad as the page you're on.
Yeah, I said this.
Hussein said it's a book closer.
I said this on your channel a few weeks ago, but I'm not ashamed to admit that I have. When I was in high school, I read the book Twilight, and despite it being a very terrible story, I actually at that time I thought, man, this is amazing. It's so engaging, and you want to find out what happens next. And it's I mean, it is actually a very dumb story, right? But the first book, it is so well written that I read it through overnight, and then in the morning, and I fell asleep with it on my face because I just couldn't go to sleep. I kept wanting to go to the next page. It was so exciting, and it was a very, very, very dumb story. Now here in the Quran, you could say the Quran.
Hang on. And then you left out the part where, when the next one was coming out, you waited outside Barnes and Noble for 3 nights in a tent to make sure you got the first copy that was available.
Actually, no. When the second, I read the first one when already all of them were out. So, and the second one I just borrowed, and I was like, okay, this is kind of dumb and boring.
Well, you're
So
really
I stopped.
You're really racking up the cool points here, AP.
I
People are like,
know.
wow, so cool. He
I
reads.
know.
He loves Twilight.
I was a gangster. I read the Twilight book, the first one, and I have to say it is significantly more enjoyable to read than the Quran, which I have read, and every single time it hurt. When I was a Muslim and I read it several times, I had to endure the pain because I felt like the pain of reading this book was a virtuous deed, and I will be rewarded for the pain that I'm going through, for the torture that I'm suffering. It was like, enduring suffering, enduring mental pain, enduring torture for the sake of Allah. That was what reading the Quran as a Muslim was like. And later, as a non-Muslim, I read it again, and it was just unbearably dumb. And I still kept reading it because I wanted to see everything that I missed in it. And it's just there is no reason for anyone to say. I have not met a single person in my life who said, the Quran, it's so amazing. I read it all the time. When I read it the first time, I just couldn't put it down. It was so engaging, so amazing. It's the best book ever. Nobody has said that.
No.
Yeah. Anyway.
So Antony Flew was apparently correct. Antony Flew, the atheist philosopher of religion. Well, he eventually became some sort of loose theist, but he's the one who said to read the Quran is to do penance.
Yeah,
that's where you punish yourself for your sins by reading the Quran, and that's good. And notice they could use that as an actual argument, right? Like Allah gives you the Quran as penance for your sins. So when you sin, go read the Quran, and that's how you punish yourself.
This is a miracle of Islam.
Yeah, you see, then you will never want to sin again.
It's actually not an exaggeration. I had the sense of being completely bored by reading this book, but I wanted to convince myself that I'm not bored, and I also felt this pleasure of of making it through this painfully horrible book because it was for the sake of Allah, and I thought there is a reward in that. So, anyway,
when I first got married and I wanted to annoy my wife for something, I would start. It wasn't the Quran. I would read her. I'm just seeing if I got it here anywhere. I'm sure you've seen it, Towards Understanding Islam by Maududi. But he goes on like page after page after page just praising Muhammad. And I would just like pull that out and start. Compared to all other men of all times, he is a diamond and they are mere rocks and blah, blah, blah. It just goes on. He goes on forever, just showering him with praise. And it's all complete nonsense.
It is so weird. I don't know what I just did. It is so weird, the whole love for Muhammad.
It would be things like, and it is clearly, I mean, it's clearly and indisputably nonsense. He would say that when Muhammad would stand up to reveal the Quran, it was so powerful that all the unbelievers in unison would have to cover their ears and run away screaming in order not to hear it, because they knew that they would convert if they simply heard the Quran. And it's funny because that's not even true according to the Quran. According to the Quran, they thought it was a joke, right? They're like, are you serious? Come on, we've heard that before. That's the guy over there who's telling you everything. Come on. They thought it was a joke. Anyway.
When people say such things, I wonder if they actually, stop for a moment and imagine and visualize what they are telling you, that when the Quran was being spoken, or, that the people were actually panicking and shocked and covering their ears and no. Like, that's a very ridiculous thing to even think of. Okay. Anyway,
Quran is telegraphic message.
Telegraphic message.
So in telegraphic message, many of the Muslims, they read the Quran and they made advances in science. That's the reason we find, if you go back into history, the Muslims advanced in science and technology. But you pose the question, forget about the past. What about today?
I would love him to give me an example, but yeah.
This is why Muhammad, peace be upon him, was the most powerful scientist of all time.
I mentioned has been discovered earlier, but many of them were discovered by Muslims, some by non-Muslims, some by Europeans. What about things which science hasn't discovered? Fine.
Well, David Wood, the Bible is so fantastic that Christians read the Bible and then they created the printing press and started.
Is that supposed to be Zakir Naik? Is that supposed to be Zakir Naik? Because that sounds more like,
I don't know. I'm just
the standard, like the guy from The Simpsons.
I'm not really trying very hard right now. I'm thinking more of the message. That's it. But yeah, so.
For instance, when Prophet Muhammad said, peace be upon him, that the eyes of the leather strap of the anus, this inspired 2 million years of science.
Oh boy, yeah. That's a hadith where Muhammad actually says that the eyes are the leather strap of the anus. Yep. And that's very profound. Think about that.
You can spend your entire life meditating on that.
Yep. Absolutely. That's what the Buddha did too, by the way.
First, I'll tell you those things which science hasn't established, but yet there are high chances.
Science hasn't established.
I was just talking about this in a different live stream, but there was a Muslim there saying, the stuff that, so the miracles that Muslims have pointed to now apparently aren't very good, but more stuff's going to come in the future, which confirms the Quran. And so.
Well, let us see what he says now.
And has testified, and I believe in it. For example, Quran says in Surah Shura, chapter number 42, verse number 29, that it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has created the creatures in the heavens and the earth and has placed creatures in them. The Quran says there is life besides this earth. Today, science hasn't proved there is life besides this earth. Scientists say there are high possibilities that life will be there.
As long as you say it like this, the crowd will believe you.
Okay, so when the Quran says, oh my God, I can't even believe when the Quran says, when the Quran speaks of Allah creating all of the creatures, all of the creation in the heaven and the earth and the heavens, or heavens and the earth, whatever. Does that to you sound like the Quran is describing extraterrestrial beings on different planets?
Klingon.
Or does it sound like the creations that the Quran already mentions, like the humans and the jinns and the angels? What does it sound like, David? Am I getting this wrong here?
Yeah, it's aliens, man. Wait. Oh, we combine this with the interpretation of Zakir Naik and Muhammad. Listen, if the eyes are the little strap of the anus, then clearly this Quran verse is talking about the Klingons near Uranus.
Oh boy. The Quran says in multiple different verses that Allah created the jinn and mankind. Here's an example. I did not create the jinn and mankind except to worship me. It mentions them together in different verses where it talks about heavens and the earth. I mean, this is very, very basic. I can't even. It's very ridiculous to even respond to this. The creation of the heavens and the earth is greater than the creation of mankind, but most of the people do not know. Okay, so the Quran repeatedly talks about the creatures that Allah creates, humans and jinns. It mentions humans and jinns very often, and jinns are these mystical, magical fire beings that the Arab polytheists believed were out there in the desert when it's night. They were quite scared of the desert at night. Of course, they didn't know better. Muslims adopted this whole idea of jinns into Islam, and then actually made it a proper belief that jinns are parallel beings which among us exist, and are made of fire, and they can be good and evil, and they will also be judged just like humans. And for some reason, the Quran was only sent to humans, not to jinns. But yeah, that is what the Quran means when it talks about the creation between in the earth and the heavens. How in the world does this hint at extraterrestrial beings outside of this planet? How in the world does it have anything to do with that? Now, you could say, if we do indeed one day make contact, and he's right about one thing, it is I mean, NASA and others say that it is very unlikely that life is only on this planet, and it's extremely likely that, given the circumstances of the universe, that there is life on different planets, and it's a matter of time until we make contact. But if it happened that we suddenly made contact with beings outside of this planet, you could say those are included in Allah's creation, but you cannot say that these Quran verses clearly point at extraterrestrial beings. That's complete nonsense.
Yeah, let me. I think he quoted 42:29. And
yeah.
So that says, and one of his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and what he has spread forth, in both of them living beings. And when he pleases, he is all powerful to gather them together. So he's taking living beings in the heavens, not as angels and whatever, as extraterrestrials. And I would have to say it would never cross my mind to read it like that. And most Muslims, it would never cross their minds to read it like that. Until, as you pointed out, until they discover extraterrestrial life, and then you see it was right here all along.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. I as a Muslim, I read the same stuff, and I never once thought, the Quran is here clearly indicating that there are beings outside of our planet, on different planets. People didn't even know that there are different planets for the longest time after the Quran came into existence. What are you talking about?
That is correct.
I believe in it. Science may discover it tomorrow, after 5 years, after 10 years, after 100 years. Quran says, I believe in it.
But notice what he's saying. He's claiming that this is what the Quran says.
Yeah.
It's not clear. This is what Ali Dawah and, well, not so much Ali Dawah as Hamza, who explained it more clearly. But Ali Dawah too, he kind of addressed this in sloppy fashion, that if you are claiming that something is a scientific miracle, one, you have to show that the science actually has established something and is settled on some sort of issue. Two, you have to show that that's what the Quran is really saying, and not that you're putting that interpretation in the Quran. Like, who do you have? Do you have Muhammad commenting on this? Who do you have that is giving this interpretation of the verse to make sure that you're not just putting it in there. And then, of course, the third point was you have to make sure that this isn't known before Muhammad put it in there. But notice that second criterion right there. On what basis would you think that Muhammad is talking about alien life here? None, like none.
But it is clear it's a miracle.
And he's saying it's clear, and I believe it, and we're eventually going to discover life based on this verse.
But I asked a very good question. The Quran says in chapter 42, verse number 29. So yeah, he's clearly reading into it and asserting that Allah says that there are extraterrestrial beings when that is not what is being said, and that's just a very big claim to make. I mean, even from a religious point of view, even from an Islamic point of view, you should probably stop for a second and think, can I really make an assertion that Allah is saying what I think he's saying? Can I really go out there and make this claim and speak for Allah? That's a little bit, should be a little bit dangerous by Islamic standards.
Yeah, but the thing is, and this is part of the problem, we talked about when manipulators manipulate, they are in turn manipulated in return by the audience. In other words, they're conditioning their audience, but the audience is conditioning them. The audience is constantly conditioning their leaders about what they can get away with, and they think they can get away with more and more and more. And so if you're just constantly blurting out, oh, look at this, it's a scientific miracle, oh, look at this, it's a scientific miracle, and so on, and you're just constantly making stuff up, and your audience cheers for you, and it never crosses their minds to go and look this up and make sure you're citing information accurately, then that just convinces you over time. I could say absolutely anything. I can go to a verse saying, oh, Allah created, all the living things in the heavens and the earth. You see, this is aliens. And when we find it out, when we find out about the aliens, you heard it here first, folks. That's why astronomy just blew up in the Muslim world.
Brother makes a good point. Brother makes a very good point. Very, very good point. Goat von Sloot said, do you mind if I call you David?
If you get my phone number, you can call me all you want. I probably won't answer.
Oh, fantastic. There you have it. By the way, Sarah Rainey came and said, no, not watching tonight. Just wanted to send you some good vibes and money. Thank you. I appreciate that a lot, Sarah. But I repeat again, shame on you. Shame on you for not watching. Shame. But thank you for the super chat and the support as always. Expecting you here next time. Amused Squid said, inshallah, we need more dawah medical doctors. Indeed we do. Medical doctors. First time caught you live. Greetings from Croatia. Oh, thank you. Greetings back to Croatia from here. Nick's Highlander, Thaddeus needs to clip that. Absolutely. Sawan Krishna said, Marhaba Ridwan, Dr. Swag, Nasılsınız? Could you please, that means how are you in the grotesque Turkish language, could you please shed some light on Ali and Hussein just as historic figures? Love from India. Thank you. I appreciate that. Could be a topic for a different time. I mean, is there anything that you want to say on that? Or do you ever talk about that? Did you ever talk?
Not really. I mean, it sounds like he's interested in like what, Shia Islam or something, or? Yeah,
I mean, Ali was the son-in-law and relative of Muhammad. A huge split emerged after the death of Muhammad due to the first three caliphs being deemed unjust, and Ali, who became the caliph after them as the fourth, him being regarded as the legitimate one, whom Muhammad allegedly secretly assigned as his successor, according to the Shia Muslims, not so according to the Sunni Muslims, and there's a lot of stuff after his death. His two sons are persecuted. A situation happens in the location known as Karbala, which is today seen as a very holy place in Shia Islam. But I mean, lots of complicated historical stuff that would need detailed analysis, I would say. Yeah.
The hypothesis how the world will end.
How the
It says
world
that the sun will become big.
Some
will
say
become-
the world will end in fire, some say in ice.
but
From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire.
who said that?
Robert Frost, I think.
Oh,
Today,
Frost.
there are many hypotheses how the world will end.
How the world will end.
It says that the sun will become big, the world will end, the mountains will fall down, the mountains will become smooth, the ocean will swell up, the world will enter into a black hole. Many hypotheses. Many of these hypotheses, not all, they match with the Quran. Quran says in Surah Qiyamah, chapter number 75, verse number 8 and 9, that the sun and the moon, they will join together.
How can many of these hypotheses add up with the Quran when many of the hypotheses are different in the nature of how it would actually happen? This is kind of ridiculous. If you want to say that that scientific predictions of the end of the planet or the end of the universe or whatever are in alignment with the Quran, then you have to somehow guess that the universe is currently on a path toward that final destruction and annihilation, and that it could be scientifically observed and hypothesized. But if you believe the Quran, you just believe that Allah will simply one day destroy everything. Why go to the whole idea that this is a whole scientific process which you can already kind of track and see and prove? It's a very strange perspective to look at.
It's also dumb because if he's talking about science, if he's talking about science, okay, the sun and the moon are going to unite. Now, what could you possibly mean, right? If he's saying from science, ask a scientist. When you're talking about the sun expanding and and destroying everything, are there going to be people here watching it? Are there going to be people here watching this happen? Why am I saying this? Because that's what happens in the passage. Let me go and read the passage, right? So he asks, when is the day of resurrection? So I'll start in verse 6. That's something Zakir Naik has a problem with, actually reading a passage in context. Surah 75, verse 6. He quoted, I think, Surah 75, 9 or something like that, 8 and 9. So Surah 75, verse 6. He asks, when is the day of resurrection? So when the sight becomes dazed, talking about people saying, when the sight becomes dazed and the moon becomes dark, some of the translations say the moon is eclipsed, and the sun and moon are brought together. Not even clear what this means because it just said eclipsed, and it, from the perspective of being on Earth, it looks like they're brought together in an eclipse. But that's not what a scientist would mean if like if the sun is just blowing up and destroying everything. And the sun and moon are brought together. Man shall say on that day, where did it go to? So there are going to be people watching this, guys. According to the Quran, there are going to be people there going, what happened to it? What happened to the moon? What happened to it? Notice the moon is eclipsed, and they're going, what happened to it? What happened to it? Zakir Naik is saying this is referring to a scientific theory about the end of, that wouldn't be the end of the universe, but it would be the end of like our solar system as anyone knows it. Are people going to be there at that point watching this? No, we would have been destroyed a long time before this. But so maybe he could tack it on as an auxiliary hypothesis that human beings will survive by expanding beyond our solar system, and they're going to be watching it from a long way away with a really powerful telescope saying, hey, what's going on there? But then they're not going to see the eclipse because you only see the eclipse from Earth. This is just like an epic disaster to be going down this road.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, the Quran makes these claims that the sun and the moon can go on a course and they follow each other and they can never join together. So it already presents this whole scientifically wrong idea of what the sun and the moon are and how they move. But here is a hadith which I think of that is just incredibly ridiculous.
But by the way, just look at those translations that you just had there. Man will say on that day, on what day? He's saying that the sun and the moon being brought together is the destruction of our solar system, and man's going to be going, hey, well, where can we go?
Yeah.
No, that will not be the day of your doom, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. People in Muhammad's time thought that an eclipse was something scary, and Muhammad himself was actually scared of the eclipse, as you can understand from this hadith, which says, it was narrated by Abu Bakr, we were with the Prophet, and the sun became eclipsed. He got up and went to the masjid, dragging his garment in haste. He was hurrying. The people stood with him, and he prayed 2 rakahs as they usually prayed. When the eclipse ended, he addressed us and said, the sun and the moon are 2 of the signs of Allah, with which he strikes fear into his slaves. They do not become eclipsed for the death or birth of anyone. If you see either of them being eclipsed, then pray and supplicate until it removed it from you. So an eclipse here is obviously a very scary situation for Muhammad, and he also tells the followers, the believers, that they too shall take an eclipse as a sign from Allah, as a warning, as a fear-inducing thing, and they should thereby be encouraged to pray and supplicate until it disappears. That is Muhammad's take on science. This, I think, is not very much in agreement with Zakir Naik's understanding of the situation. It doesn't sound very good.
So I have to say, but notice, here's the ongoing problem. We're watching this video going, how is this impressive to anyone? Yet we know from experience, just because the tone of voice that Zakir Naik is using, we know that people were standing there going, oh, it's so amazing. Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. Yes, the Quran, it's not just filled with modern science. It's filled with science long into the future. That's why we are the champions of science here in the Muslim world. That's why the entire world, when the rest of the world says, hey, we want to do science, that's why they come to the Muslim world to go to schools in the Muslim world, because the fount of science is the Quran.
We can already see the comment section, but this is funny. The comment section, top comment, I'm a Christian-born atheist, and after seeing your series of...
How many times have we seen that? Oh, I'm thinking of converting to Islam.
Yeah.
And you get like an instant, look, 1400.
What's funny is this is from 4 years ago. In the meantime, this person probably changed their account name. It's now called Farsi1767. Farsi means Persian. So
I'm a Christian-born atheist.
Yeah, I'm a Christian-born atheist, and after seeing a series of videos, I'm thinking of converting to Islam. It's really a wonderful and most interesting religion. I mean, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? With the username here now visible as Farsi. Whenever I watch any video like this, my faith becomes more strong. And so
my iman becomes stronger.
Whoa. We have goosebumps from this if you are a true believer. Why would you have goosebumps from this, man?
I mean, guys, think about what he's saying. I mean, he just said the 2 stupidest things. One, he goes to a verse where you have no reason to think this is saying that this has anything to do with alien life. And he's saying it has something to do with alien life, and saying that it will eventually be confirmed sometime down the road. And then he's saying that, according on the end, the end, was he talking about the end of the universe? Because that's
the end of everything.
Was he talking about the end of the universe? Because that would not be the end of
he's talking about
our sun.
The end of the it doesn't make sense. The whole him referring to hypotheses about the end of the world. It doesn't really make sense. So the question is kind of strange.
Yeah. So you've got, is the Quran claiming, that the sun's going to go, whatever's going to happen to it, it's going to expand and just destroy everything. And he thinks that human beings are still going to be there watching this going, hey, we need to figure out where we can go from this.
Of course.
And so notice it's not clear that is, matter of fact, if you read in context, that is most certainly not what the Quran is talking about. But even if you granted it, it still doesn't line up. It still doesn't line up with the scientific theory. No one's scientific theory is that human beings are going to be here on the Earth as the moon gets swallowed up by the sun, and we're going to be watching it.
How could you question the Quran's
folded up
science when it says when the sun will be folded up or wrapped up, and it says, and when the stars fall, dispersing, and when the mountains will be moved or removed, and when a full-term she-camel is neglected. No idea why that is here.
And by the way, if you're talking about like cataclysmic events destroying the star and universe, there aren't going to be any camels here. There's not going to be any camels. And look, and the wild beasts are being gathered. Guys, this is not lining up. And notice it doesn't cross. And you looked at the comment section. It doesn't cross anyone's mind.
Yeah.
To even look up the passage and ask a question about is this what this is really saying, Zakir Naik? Because this doesn't seem to fit. It never crosses anyone's mind to say, Zakir Naik has said something, let me go and look it up. It has never entered one of his followers' minds ever at any point in history. Isn't that weird? I mean, think if he's saying, "Oh, this passage contains all this," wouldn't you at least want to go look at the passage? I mean, wouldn't you at least want to go, "Oh, wow, let me check this out"? Never crosses their mind.
That's what I did. Apparently, I was very special and outstandingly smart for doing something as basic that anyone should do, to just look things up when you hear them, when you are a believer. Yeah. And when the seas are filled with flame, and when the souls are paired, and when the girl buried alive is asked for what sin she was killed, and when the pages are spread, and when the sky is stripped away. How do you strip away the sky?
Well, if it's a solid object that will fall on you, then you could strip it away.
Makes sense. Okay.
See?
Fair point.
In your face.
See?
It has been refuted.
Will be buried in darkness. If you read Surah Takwir, chapter number 81, verse 1, 2, and 3, it says that the stars will fall down and lose their luster. The mountain.
Okay, and how do you combine this with science, dear Mr. Zakir? How can the stars fall down? Where exactly do they fall? What direction do they fall in? How does this happen? I mean, obviously, the people back in the day thought that the stars were these objects that are up there in the nearest heaven, as the Quran describes them. The Quran literally says that Allah places them into the nearest heaven as as an adornment, and to throw them at the rebellious devil jinns who try to sneak up and get secret knowledge from Allah's high council in the Quran's crazy world. But so they thought that the stars are those little things up there, and one day they would of course fall down on you. But how in the real world, in the universe, when stars are these gigantic things like our sun, which is a star, how could they fall down? Where exactly do they fall down to? There is no direction that they could actually fall towards, because there is no up and down and left and right. They are floating out there. Where exactly are they falling? This is idiotic. I mean, it's very strange to me that this guy appeals to science, then references Quran verses like these that are clearly scientifically problematic, to say the least, and then really tries to make it the point that the Quran is ahead of science.
You just went through this passage, and again, you have camels there and animals being gathered and so on. This is not what scientists are imagining this is going to be like. That we're all going to be right here on Earth, and then we look up in the sky and we see all this happening, and it's the end of the universe. That's not the scientific picture. You will be long gone when this stuff is happening, according to the scientific picture.
No, you're just being Islamophobic. You don't want to listen because you want to be famous.
Mountains will fall down to utter ruin. The ocean will swell up.
Mountains will fall down. Doesn't make sense at all. Ocean.
It's mentioned in Surah Infitar, chapter number 82, verse 1 and 2 and 3. Again, the ocean will swell up.
Oh, yeah.
The stars will fall down. Similar to many of the hypotheses.
No, don't leave out the camels, Zakir Naik. Leave out the camels. Notice he goes verses 1, 2, and 3, leaves out the very next verse, which is about the camels.
And he says many similar to the scientific hypotheses. Which which scientific which scientific which scientifically valid explanation, hypothesis, prediction of how things will go over the next million or billions of years actually says the stars will fall down? Please show it to me. Show me where anyone
And
suggested
that
the
when
stars
they
will
fall down, you're going to be worried about your camels.
The sun, the giant sun, which is also a star, will be falling down, and you will go after your camel.
Here's the thing. The only
This is
you
ridiculous.
can there are basically two ways you can use a passage like this, right? One, you could say they're using apocalyptic language, right? Because that it was a thing that people would use apocalyptic language about the end of the universe, and they're just using some really extreme language about all the stuff's going to happen. Or you could use a metaphorical interpretation, saying, you know, the stars falling refers to angels falling or something like that. So, but notice, once you go in that route, you can't be appealing to science, because now you're saying that things are they mean something other than what they're saying. But Zakir Naik is saying, no, it means exactly what it says. And this is something that science will confirm, where if you understand anything about the scientific theory he's pointing to, and you understand anything about the passage, these things cannot possibly be reconciled. And he's saying it's miraculous, amazing evidence for the Quran that these things fit together so well. They don't fit together at all.
Yeah. There have been attempts in the Islamic history of interpreting these verses to say that the stars falling is indeed here just metaphorical. It's just a reference to them, losing their light and all of that. But the issue is that's not what the Quran verse in question is saying, and you could argue that, right? That could make sense, but that's not what the verse is actually saying. And the interpreters of the Quran, I addressed it before, like Ibn Kathir, I believe, and many others, specifically talk about how this shows that the stars will be falling down in motion and dispersing. So it is quite explicit here, and not a metaphor.
And notice how well that fits in with Islamic astronomy, where stars are just up there as missiles for Allah to shoot at a demon when he tries to sneak into space. I mean, when he tries to sneak into heaven to hear Allah's plans. And when you see a shooting star, meteor, that's because Allah actually hurled one. And when you find a meteorite on the ground, that is an old worn out star that Allah hurled at a demon. And so it makes sense, if you're thinking like that, it makes perfect sense that all the stars are just going to come crashing down like missiles.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the end of it. And you're going to have to, you're going to figure out a place for your camel.
Look at this. We have certainly beautified the nearest heaven with lamps, and have made from them what is thrown.
That's the lowest. Oh, that's the lowest ozone there. That's the lowest of the ozone there.
And we have prepared for them the punishment of the blaze. So the stars, these little lights, these lamps, are in the nearest heaven. Nearest heaven means lowest heaven, or heaven of the earth, literally. And they are thrown at the devils by Allah's angels. This is what is being described. So the stars are obviously these objects that are thrown at devils that are up there on the heaven of the earth. And of course, it makes sense that Allah would make them all fall down on us when the day comes, which is just ridiculous. Ridiculous. I will make sure to find them and kick them around when they start falling down.
Well, EP, if the sun can fit in a muddy pool way out west, I mean, it's a problem with stars being small too. Come on, think, dude.
Yeah.
Think. All right, go ahead.
You have a point. I didn't think about that before.
Powerful.
I have to rethink everything now.
I believe in it.
I believe in it.
Quran further says in Surah Anbiya, chapter number 21, verse number 104, we have created this creation, we will destroy it and create a new creation. Science hasn't discovered that yet. Quran speaks about life after death. Science hasn't proved that yet. Quran speaks about heaven and hell.
Why would science even go into that? Like, he doesn't understand science as the medical doctor? I don't get it.
Science hasn't proved about that. Quran speaks about jinn. Today psychologists say extraterrestrial power. There are some people who get possessed with jinns.
Who says that, Zakir Naik? Who says that?
Everyone says that.
Psychologists said that.
Science hasn't proved about that. Quran speaks about jinn. Today psychologists say
Psychologists.
extraterrestrial power.
David, you took psychology courses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you learned anything about these psychologists who say that these extraterrestrial powers possess humans? Is that something that psychology has meanwhile come to agree and argue and all that?
No.
Well, then obviously you missed something. You didn't pay attention. So.
No, they tend to it's interesting. They tend to not take it seriously as an explanation, but they tend to say that like exorcisms and so on, even though I don't believe there's anything demonic, they tend to think that, well, these things actually can help because, if a person believes that a demon has been expelled from them or something like that, then they tend to do better. But nope, not I don't recall the extraterrestrial. Oh, come on. He's saying it's eventually going to be that way, AP. Come on. They're eventually going to find this out. What in the world are you talking about?
No, look at it.
Today psychologists say.
Today, psychologists say.
Oh, okay, never mind. Okay, I was throwing. Wait.
Today, psychologists
say extraterrestrial power.
Yeah, today psychologists say extraterrestrial power.
Dr. Whitemeat says. Remember that he would just make people up and say Dr. Whitemeat. It's like, what are you talking about? No one can find anyone he's talking about.
Dr. Whitemeat.
But notice how this sets the stage, right? Look at this. If you're a young narcissistic guy who's planning to go into Dawa and you have half a brain, you're looking at this going, I can make up anything I want. And as long as I'm making it up in defense of Islam and to promote Islam, there are massive amounts of people out there who will shower me with praise and money for the rest of my life if I just do that. And what's the eventual outcome of, hey, I can make anything up because no one's going to question me? Look, I'm a victim of a ketchup hate crime. The Islamophobes got me. That's the outcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the new generation of the Dawa guys who have realized I can say anything I want. I can fake a hate crime. Jussie Smollett, he'll get called out because even his fans will eventually call him out and say, this is too much, man. This is wrong. You got to go to jail. In the Dawa community, nope. They're not going to call you out.
I just Googled it and also looked among scholarly articles on psychologists talking about extraterrestrial powers. I can't find anything here. I don't know why.
You're a liar. That's the main theory now. They have conferences on extraterrestrial power. They go in there and they say, hey, this guy's coming in here. He's acting all weird. He says he's hearing voices. Aha, extraterrestrial power.
So let's get this straight now. Let's cut through the nonsense and let's get this straight. According to Zakir Naik, psychologists today interpret certain behaviors that are considered possessions by jinns as extraterrestrial powers, meaning psychologists are saying that these are extraterrestrial, so outside our planet is their origin, powers which have some control over these people and make them mentally ill or possess them. So this would mean that psychologists today are clearly arguing for the confirmed existence of extraterrestrial beings or powers which interact with us and possess us.
And psychologists have confirmed in the movie Independence Day that the alien could control another person's mind. We saw it right there. And that E.T. could put the finger out and take the pain away from the finger. This is their all-time great. This is their all-time greatest champion of Dawa. What, guys?
Who believes this?
Like, what has he gotten right here? Like, that's what's amazing. Again, Nabil did this once. He went through a 5-minute Zakir Naik clip and fact-checked everything. And there were 25 mistakes in a 5-minute clip. I mean, 25 factual errors in a 5-minute clip. This is not a guy who did a ton of research and went out and showed how this research confirms the Quran. This is a guy who realized that he is talking to complete gullible morons who will listen to anything he says and cheer for him no matter what. And over time, he realized, I could just say anything. All I have to do is get up there and sound confident, and I'm good forever for the rest of my life. And I'll go down as a legend in the Islamic community.
He still does that whole thing. I think he still sticks to that whole misunderstanding of words when he refers to a scientific theory, which is theory means it's a theory. It's not fact. Like,
Yeah, that's not what a theory means in science generally.
he still does that after being corrected and called out and laughed about so many times for, as a medical doctor, allegedly a scientist, misunderstanding and misrepresenting such a very simple point in terms of scientific research. He still sticks to that. So I don't know what it is. Does he know that he's making things up, that he's just lying? Does he know that he gets things wrong, but he just sticks to them, or is he unaware of the ridiculousness of some of the claims that he makes, and he just doesn't bother into looking into things and correcting himself? I don't get it.
I'm pretty sure. I don't say this about everyone, right? Like if a Muslim were to say this to me sitting down on the subway or something like this, and a Muslim were to give me these arguments, I would think, okay, this Muslim really believes this stuff and so on. When I hear Zakir Naik, I've just seen too many examples where, okay, the person listening to you does not know what that passage actually says. But you've read it, and you know what it actually says. Like it's very similar to when he argues that according to the Bible, Jesus didn't die by crucifixion. And in some of the cases, a verse that he will use, in some of the cases where he uses a verse to make a point, he only quotes part of the verse. You literally just have to finish the verse and it refutes the point he's making, or let alone read the rest of the passage. But those are situations where, okay, someone who's never actually gone to this passage and never actually read this verse might hear that quotation and interpret it the way you think, the way you're claiming it should be interpreted. But anyone who's actually read that knows there's no way to interpret it that way. You're claiming that that is the correct interpretation. I know Zakir Naik has at least at some point gone to that passage, and yet the fact that he's saying this to them, you've got to know you're lying at that point. And so what I really think is going on here is similar to what Ali Dawah was saying, that he was brought into Islam by deception. He was duped into converting to Islam by these scientific miracles. And he's since found out that it's absolute nonsense, but he wants to stay for other things. But notice, even according to Ali Dawah says Allah used the deception of the scientific miracles to bring him to Islam. So in Ali Dawah's mind, that deception was good because it got him to Islam. I really think a lot of these Dawah guys are along those lines. I mean, think about it. I mean, the perfect preservation, they all knew that was total nonsense, right? But they still said it. I mean, if you know anything, I mean, at least the people like Yasser Qadhi indisputably knew that was a lie, that perfect preservation of just one Quran. They all knew that was a lie, yet they rolled with it. And so they really seem to be thinking in terms of, okay, well, you're going to heaven if you're a Muslim, you're going to hell if you're not. And therefore, even if I lie to you and deceive you to get you to believe in Islam, I'm deceiving you into heaven. So what's the problem here? And so I think they just believe that it's entirely justified to lie to people.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. It is crazy.
It's powerful, though. It's Dawah.
It is pretty crazy. It reminds me of him when it comes to the scientific theory thing. He's like, it's a scientific theory. It's a hypothesis. Like a scientific theory and a scientific hypothesis are they are two completely different. They are two different things. They are actually two different things. And he's there and he's like, I'm a scientist. I'm a medical doctor. It's a hypothesis. It's a theory. Theory means it's a theory. It's a hypothesis. Like, that doesn't make any sense. You should know this as a medical doctor if you want to use your credentials and your status there. The guy is weird. They now make Qurans in chronological order with pictures, said Happy Camper. Nice. They should.
I've been advocating for that for years. That's very helpful. Just putting the Quran in chronological order. The problem is there's disputes about some of the chronological order of some stuff.
Yeah.
And there's the question of what did they just like I'd have to see one. I don't know. Like, did they just put the general chapters in order? Or because some of the chapters it will say, this chapter was revealed at this time, but this verse was revealed at a different time. So be interesting to see how they.
Yeah, some chapters have verses that were revealed while a later chapter was being revealed according to the tradition. So, but I do I think I got a digital version of a chronological Quran that is that tries to do that, but it's kind of weird to read.
Certainly helps for purposes of knowing what's been abrogated by what to have a chronological Quran.
That is correct. Paragon of Excellence says, why shaitan be farting on Allah? Sahih Bukhari 608. This is a very legitimate question. Which one exactly are you referring to? Which hadith? Let's see. Sahih Bukhari 608.
Did you see that? Did you see the clip that's been going around recently of that Muslim scholar talking about the Satan farting when he hears the adhan and so?
No, I heard stuff like that throughout my life.
I mean, he spends an entire video talking about it. You can make Satan pass wind through his anus and stuff.
I haven't seen that. I should look at it.
Don't you want to make Satan pass wind through his anus? This is how you do it according to...
This is ridiculous. Allah's messenger said, when the adhan is pronounced, the call to prayer, Satan takes to his heels and passes wind with noise during his flight in order not to hear the adhan. When the adhan is completed, he comes back again and takes to his heels when the iqamah is pronounced, which comes after the call to prayer. And after its completion, he returns again till he whispers into the heart of the person and makes him remember things which he does not recall, and so on. So this is a funny attempt to explain why some people forget things while they are praying or have different thoughts while they are praying, think about different things. Muhammad explains that by Satan coming and whispering things into your ears. That's why your mind wanders off into different things. That's not how the mind works. It's just Satan doing that to you when he's done farting. This is the wisdom. The wisdom of Muhammad.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. It's like he's trying to explain things, but he uses the level of description that like a 5-year-old who just found out about all these bodily functions would use, right?
Yeah.
It's something little kids would do, describe everything in terms of farting and Satan peeing in your ear and stuff like this. Like it's like something you would tell to a 5-year-old. And this is like the most perfect version of the perfect religion.
Yeah. This reminds me of my son, 6-year-old. When he was 5, I pick him up from school and he talks to me about leprechauns, and he really hates leprechauns, and he doesn't like it that they come to your room and mess up your place if you do stuff. And I'm like, they're not real. They don't really exist. So you don't have to worry about that. And he's like, what? Are you just kidding? And then he had a whole discussion with me about leprechauns and what they actually do and how it makes complete sense. That reminds me of Muhammad here. Yeah. Well. Why don't I take my little son as prophet? I don't understand.
You say extraterrestrial power. There are some people who get possessed with jinns. Quran speaks about that. Quran speaks the first man on the earth was Adam, peace be upon him. Science hasn't proved. There are high possibility science will prove. Now you may ask me that, brother Zakir, you gave such a good talk on science and technology.
You give such a good talk.
Why is
with 100%? He's bragging about it. Now someone will say to me, Zakir Naik, you're so great at everything. You're the smartest person who's ever lived and the greatest human being in the world. Why shouldn't we elect you king? Fair point. But let me say, I mean, look at it. Someone will
that say, is just that's amazing. That's I don't know. That's so narcissistic. Look at he's bragging, praising himself from someone else's hypothetical.
Science hasn't proved that high possibility.
Because as long as you say someone will say,
there's someone. Yeah.
Now you may ask me that, brother Zakir, you gave such a good talk on science and technology.
And you're so good looking, like you look like a model. Why won't you go into modeling? Why are you not a movie star with your great looks and your great proof?
With 100% solid
You
proof.
believe in life after death?
100% solid proof.
You believe it?
You believe in heaven
You
and
believe
hell?
in it?
You're a doctor?
You're a doctor?
Isn't this unscientific? I said, no, brother.
No, brother. I know I'm doing a lot of mockery here, and I know lots of viewers will
Shame on
say that lots of viewers will say, AP, you're so amazing, so brilliant, so smart, so eloquent, so fantastic. There's no better YouTuber than you, and no better speaker and streamer than you. I know people will say that. So why are you making fun of somebody? Isn't that kind of a low blow? But I'm just doing that because I like it. Yeah. See how easy it is? See?
We got to start learning to compliment ourselves like this guy.
I believe that it is scientific. Suppose whatever the Quran has mentioned, 80% has proved to be 100% correct. I spoke about 80% is scientific. Suppose whatever the Quran has mentioned, 80% has proved to be 100% correct.
Hold on. There's a scene in Anchorman. I've watched the clip like 80 times, but I forget the percentages. He goes, he's talking about his cologne, and it's called Sex Panther. And he says, he goes, 60% of the time it works every time. That's what he says right now. 80% has proven to be 100% correct.
Why would you do that? Why would you give a percentage within on this? That's just
60% of the time,
Or
it
even
works
the
every
claim.
time. So look at what he's actually saying. He's saying like
80% of the Quran is 100% factual.
Yeah, 80% of the Quran we've tested. We found out that it's 100% scientifically accurate, and therefore the 20% that hasn't been confirmed by science, that's the stuff that will be confirmed in the future. If I actually thought for a second that 80% of the Quran has been confirmed as 100% accurate, I might agree with him and say, wow, it was really right on all these things. The problem is that the clearest scientific passages in the Quran are all wrong. You know, sun setting in a muddy pool, stars or missiles that Allah uses to shoot demons, semen is formed between the backbone and ribs. All of this stuff is wrong. And the stuff that they claim is scientifically accurate, you usually just have to read the passage to see what it's actually saying, or have any clue at all what the actual scientific claim is being made. And you find out that apart from some very general stuff like there is a sun and there is a moon, Muhammad gets everything wrong that he could possibly get wrong. He gets it wrong. And Zakir Naik looks at it, 100% correct. No.
100% correct.
No.
What? It's 100% correct. It's amazing.
80% is 100% correct.
It's a miracle. It is a miracle.
60% of the time, it works every time.
I made a video in the past.
And the Quran tells us the same story.
Yeah, that was me. I made a video in the past, which is called "The Scientific Mistakes of the Quran." And
you should pin that on this video, and then everyone,
yeah.
if there are new people, because that's 4 years. Gosh, it's been 4 years since you made that. I remember you making that.
I know, that's insane.
That's 4 years ago.
I worked for months on this one video. I worked for months on it, writing it, putting it together, editing things out, putting new things in, researching, recording it, putting it all together, and then editing the whole thing, finding all kind of stock footage. And what's funny is it took me, I think it took me like 6 months or something like that to put this together. What's funny is when I made this and published it, there was this one Muslim guy on Twitter, Justin Parrott. We recently reviewed something from him. He went on and said, look at the quality of his video. It's very clear that that somebody is paying him because the quality is very good. He's obviously getting money for this. And I did it all by myself for a very long time.
Hey, that's what. See, that's how you praise someone, right?
I know.
And you can praise yourself. You can be like, hey, I make my graphics. And, as one Muslim pointed out to me, oh, look, he's obviously being paid for all his great graphics. But I made those, ladies and gentlemen.
So ridiculous, man.
Hey, look, you got Muhammad Ijad there. Scientific errors in the Quran refuted.
He did that in response to me. He talked about it, and then
I was I was about to say, hey, we should go through that video in the next live stream, and it's like 2 hours and 55 minutes.
Well, what he did was he addressed, after having a discussion with me.
Is this
he
the
talked about-
Unabomber?
Yes, he talked about how the detractors of Islam have now put together like compilations of supposed scientific mistakes. So I will come to
look at his
debunk that.
views. Look at his views versus yours. You see, he got
Look at
190,000 views.
Yeah,
You got 700,000 views.
this is proof.
You see, that's why they abandoned the argument. They're like, we can only get 190,000. He got 700,000. Let's just say it's been debunked. All right, it's been debunked by majority vote.
If I was like them, I would actually put this put these two together with the screenshots showing the view count and see.
That's
look,
exactly. You should do that in a tweet just for joking, because we're talking about it here.
Yeah.
You see,
If I was like this,
the people have spoken.
you can clearly see here that mine is much more convincing than you. Nobody believes your defense of the scientific issues in the Quran. Or everybody believes that there are scientific mistakes, because look at it, 700,000 versus 190,000.
The people have spoken.
People have spoken. The Quran is wrong. Man. But yeah, go and watch this. I will pin this in the comment section. Yeah.
As mentioned, 80% has proved to be 100% correct.
Every
I spoke
time.
about astronomy, about geology, motorcycle,
All of it.
oceanography, botany,
Watercycle, bicycle,
motorcycle,
icicles.
oceanography, astronomy, has proved
All right.
to be 100% correct. I spoke about astronomy,
Dreamsicle.
We have astronomy, geology,
geology, motorcycle,
motorcycle, oceanography,
oceanography, botany,
botany,
biology, zoology.
biology, zoology.
So just hypothetically, 80% what the Quran has mentioned, suppose, has been proved to be 100% correct.
So wait a minute. What
Yeah,
is
I would find that amazing. If 80% of the Quran had been proven to be 100% correct, I would find that pretty impressive.
I don't understand. Didn't he just claim that 80% has
Yeah,
been
now he
proven?
says hypothetically.
I don't understand.
It is
Why don't
scientific.
you let him make his point, man?
Suppose whatever the Quran has mentioned, 80% has proved to be 100% correct.
Okay, fine.
I spoke about astronomy, about geology, motorcycle, oceanography, botany, biology, zoology. So just hypothetically, 80% what the Quran has mentioned, suppose, has been proved to be 100% correct. The remaining 20% is ambiguous. Neither right, neither wrong. Not even 0.1% of that 20% which is ambiguous has been proved to be wrong. There is not a single verse of the Quran which can be proved false by established science.
Okay, so what he's saying is, let us say that 80% of what is in the Quran scientifically has been proven to be entirely true. He holds that position, so he wants you to think, let us say that 80% of it roughly has already been proven true. There is 20% of it left. All of that is currently not known to be true, but also not known to be false. And there is nothing in the Quran which has proven to be false. Now, first off, I would like to know what exactly he bases these numbers on.
Yeah.
Are there some research papers that he's going to reference and present and bring forth? Where are those research papers? And who is in charge of judging who is correct with their assessments? Because I'm pretty sure that lots of people think that there is a lot of wrong stuff in the Quran. I made a list of 60 mistakes in the Quran, and lots of other people have talked about it. You can read the Quran and compare it with basic scientific knowledge when it comes to how mountains came into existence, how the sun moves and the moon, and what stars actually are, embryology, lots of things. When it comes to the animals, you can see that the Quran is obviously wrong. But of course, the problem is, once you find that the Quran is not consistent with science on a scientific topic, what you do then is to say, well, okay, we don't understand this. It's not wrong. We're just misunderstanding it. This means something different, So it is therefore ambiguous, and we will find out in the future. Great. Problem solved.
Yeah, and so I would also be interested in where he's getting these numbers from. But I mean, just think about the overall picture you get of either the universe or human reproduction, because those are the two big topics the Quran addresses. And if you look at the big picture, that like you can look at a specific verse and they'll reinterpret it and try to come up with a different understanding that completely conflicts with the surrounding verses and so on. But you actually get a picture of the universe when you combine what the Quran says with what Muhammad says and with the commentary of the early Muslim community. You get something along the lines of down at the bottom underneath the earths is this giant fish or whale, and some will say there's things below that and stuff, but let's just go down to the giant fish or whale. You got this giant fish or whale, and then you've got 7 flat earths stacked up on top of that like pancakes, except there's some space in between them. We live on that top earth. And out on the over here on the side of the top earth, you've got this pool where the sun goes down. Then it sort of tunnels down through and then comes up again and so on. It keeps doing that. Some even say that I forget if it was 180 or 360 pools, that there's a bunch of different pools and the sun goes down into a different one each day. For a period of months, or maybe a different one every day for an entire year. But you got the sun doing that. Then you've got the lowest heaven above that, and the lowest heaven, there's actually it's within a dome. There's that dome. It has channels for traveling there, but it's a dome, and it would fall on you if Allah didn't hold it up. And within this lowest heaven, that's where your stars are. That's where your stars are. And there are these small things. There are these missiles that Allah uses to shoot at demons. And when you see when you see a shooting star, it's because that is an actual star that Allah hurled at a demon. And you have 7 of these domes stacked on top of each other. And there's a 500-year journey between each of the heavens, and there's a 500-year journey in between each of the 7 earths that are stacked up. And so you can look at that, and you could actually draw that out and see what the universe looks like. And then you could say, how much does that line up with modern science? Would you say it's 80% accurate, and that the other 20% is waiting to be confirmed?
Obviously.
Something like that. You get a similar result if you go through embryology and so on.
Obviously. This shows it's clearly true. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. Even today, scientists say sunset. They say when the sun goes down. They say there's one song.
Even today, people say when the sun goes down into the pool, make sure it doesn't burn you up.
Even today, scientists say in this one song, the sky will fall down. The sky will, if you leave me, the sky will fall down. This means it's a miracle. That's what the Quran says. Ridiculous stuff, man.
No, it's good.
But yeah, it is good. It is good. It is good.
Hypothesis. So my logic says,
His logic.
established science. Hypothesis. So my logic says, when 80% is 100% correct and the remaining 20% is ambiguous, but not even 0.1% of that 20% is proved wrong. So my logic says that even that 20% inshallah will be correct. If not today, tomorrow.
Of course you will say that.
After 50 years, after 100 years, after 1,000 years, Allahu Alam, God knows, they will prove there's life after death. They will prove there is jinn. They will prove there is hell. There is proof.
Zakir Naik, science is not concerned with proving that there is life after death. I don't think you understand what science actually is, which is very strange because you are supposedly a scientist, a medical doctor. He should be aware of the fact that science is not meant to concern itself with finding out that there is indeed life after death. That would not be a scientific matter. Jeez, I don't even.
Play that math part again, because I'm going to show you what it just reminded me of.
Suppose 80% is 100% correct. That means the 1% of the 20% is 100% false.
Hypothesis. So my logic says, when 80% is 100% correct and the remaining 20% is ambiguous, but not even 0.1% of that 20% is proved wrong. So my logic says that even that 20% inshallah will be correct. If not today, tomorrow, after 50.
Hey, check out the link I just sent you. I mean, we could always finish this one and then come back to that point because it's almost over. But I sent you a link. What that reminded me of. It's pretty awesome.
Let's see.
Scott Steiner, it's going to be a three-way for the TNA heavyweight title at Sacrifice between you, Kurt Angle, and Samoa Joe. Now, before you get there,
That's
you have
about
an
to be
important
awesome
step tonight as you and X Division champion Petey Williams take on the unlikely duo of Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe.
Okay, here we go. Zakir Naik.
All men are created equal, but you look at me and you look at Small Joe, and you can see that statement is not true. See, normally if you go one-on-one with another wrestler, you got a 50-50 chance of winning.
50-50.
I'm a genetic freak, and I'm not normal. So you got a 25% at best at beating me. Then you add Kurt Angle to the mix. Your chances of winning drastically go down. See, the three-way at Sacrifice, you got a 33 and a third chance of winning. I got a 66 and two-thirds chance of winning because Kurt Angle knows he can't beat me, and he's not even going to try. So, Small Joe, you take your 33 and a third chance minus my 25% chance, and you got an 8 and a third chance of winning. Then you take my 75% chance of winning, lose to a one-on-one, and then add 66 and two-thirds chance. I got a 141 and two-thirds chance of winning at Sacrifice. See, numbers don't lie. Disaster for you at Sacrifice. But I'm going to break it down for all you ladies. Would you rather be with me?
You stop it there. Now he's changing the subject. We just wanted the math. Wasn't that awesome?
Oh man, that's crazy.
Oh.
I didn't know about this.
That was powerful. It sounds exact. I mean, think if a Dawa guy came out exactly like that, but he just said Quran and all of that, he would be the most famous da'i in the world right now.
This is funny. I was just thinking that maybe Zakir Naik is just putting all of these numbers out there just to confuse and impress people with numbers, and because nobody's going to follow that through except if you're a nerd.
Yeah.
But that's
Wasn't that an awesome clip?
yeah, it was. It was good. So let's say 80% of what is in the Quran has been proven 100% true. And let us say there's 20% left in the Quran, which is neither 100% true nor 0% true, and therefore not 100% false either. So of that 20% left, not even 1% has proven to be 100% false. Therefore, I argue that within those 20%, the remaining 20% will also be proven to be 100% true in the future, inshallah. Fantastic. Great point. That's
Powerful.
how you convert people to Islam. Wow, man. That was a good clip.
50 years, after 100 years, after 1,000 years, Allah Alam, God knows, they will prove there's life after death.
No,
they
they
will
won't.
prove there is jinn. They will prove
Maybe they
there is
won't.
hell. There is proof there is heaven, and so on and so forth.
That's it. So indeed there has come to you clear proof from your Lord and guidance and mercy. Who is then more unjust than he who rejects Allah's message and turns away from them? This is put here. This message is put here at the end of this video because clearly you have seen that after this powerful message, Islam is true. The Quran is from Allah. It's very obvious now at this point. So if you are still in the light of this guidance, of this clear proof from your Lord, you do not believe in Islam. If you at this point don't accept the Quran as the word of Allah, then you are just completely unjust, and shame on you. Yeah.
Powerful.
Shame on you. Shame on you. It should say shame on you here.
Hey, this is a side note. The guy you were just watching, that was Scott Steiner.
Yeah.
He's played in a couple movies when they needed a really big dude. And in one of the Punisher films, he played a guy called the Russian, who was a sort of second-rate Punisher villain in the comics, right?
Uh-huh.
Russian, who's this massive muscle-bound dude. Anyway, there's a scene where the Punisher is supposed to stab him in the chest with a knife. And so you see it in the movie, he stabs him in the chest, and the guy just looks like it's amusing to him, and he he grabs his hand and pulls the knife out and stuff like that. It's an interesting blooper detail that the prop master forgot to replace the actual knife with a stunt knife, with a retractable fake knife. So he actually got stabbed right in the chest by the dude. He stayed in character, grinning and in a sick smile on his face, and made the guy pull it out and stuff. But it was all real. It's in the film.
Wow.
That's a tough dude. Gets stabbed in the chest by accident because the prop guy is stupid, but stays in character.
Wow. That's messed up, man. That is messed up. That is absolutely messed up. Hey, so after going through this whole video in which we have confirmed the Quran is ahead of science, what do you think, David? Are you becoming a Muslim now?
No, it's like I mean, every Zakir Naik
How dare you.
clip I see is dumber than the one that came before that. You know what I mean?
But the people here in the comment section of this video are saying that their faith became stronger after they watched this video. So what's your
Yeah,
problem?
I hear that a lot.
Wow.
It's become the mantra.
I'm actually speechless. His explanations are great.
Isn't this interesting? It's like you and I look at that, and it is the most insanely idiotic nonsense we've ever heard, and all you get is praise for this in the Dawa community.
Man.
But I
Wow.
mean, think about this. If you were Zakir Naik, if you were a Dawa guy and you just made that video, and it was the absolute most ridiculous nonsense, there is not one valid, valuable point in the entire video. Everything is complete nonsense. And you get showered with praise. You're our hero for this. What message does that send? It sends you the message, put out more nonsense, because they eat it up. They eat it up here.
No, the message it sends out is that this is powerful stuff.
Oh, Dawa is so powerful.
Dawa is powerful. Dawa is amazing. Dawa is brilliant.
This is how they built up the Ummah for years, and now Ali Dawa just comes along. Hey, it's all been debunked.
Look, here's a 10-year-old who is impressed. So that's clear proof that this is a good video. That there's a lot of good proof.
Yeah, kid, if you really want to be a scientist, you could be a Muslim and be a scientist. You cannot really be a Zakir Naik fan and take his claim seriously and be a scientist.
Man.
You would be laughed out of any science department in the world if you went in and started spouting this stuff.
Videos like this rekindle the strong faith I once had. My faith weakened. Now I begin to return. If your faith weakened, and this kind of complete nonsense, which is laughable on so many levels, is what rekindles your faith, then I don't know what to do with you. I don't know what to tell you. Wow.
Christian Hijab says one of her Muslim friends. Says one of her Muslim friends told her she just needs to watch Zakir Naik, and then she would understand Islam better. Ironically, your Muslim friend is right. You will understand Islam. If you actually look at how Zakir Naik convinces people, you will learn all kinds of stuff about Islam and how it's perfectly acceptable to deceive people as long as you find the right people who are ignorant and gullible, and you use that to spread your religion.
It actually tells me a lot about Muslims. It tells me a lot about Muslims, and it's not good. Doesn't look pretty. Not pretty.
It ain't pretty.
It ain't pretty at all. Daryl said additional jizya payment. Oh, thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Daryl, for the jizya payment. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll put it to good use for this channel. I appreciate it very much. House of Hikmah, the kid, said, look at these nerds talking about science. Isn't he like 12 years old or something?
Yeah, he's a total little nerd who, yeah, I don't even know what to say, man. You can't talk about kids too much because you don't want to ruin their self-esteem.
Yeah. And it might also
but if I were to talk to him and tell him what a pathetic little loser he is, then it would break his heart. So I won't say those kinds of things. I'll just point out that he is young.
Yeah, don't do it. Just abstain for now. Proud of that, said brother asked a good question. Brother makes a good point. Yep. Undercover Pro 18 made a super chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate it very much. Undercover Pro 18 made another super chat and said, "Hey AP, when's that book coming out? Thanks for all you do. I really appreciate your work." Book. I'm really bad on the whole book front. Last update that I gave was that I have a lot of the stuff written down, planned out, outlined, but it is all rough and raw, and I haven't made great progress over the last year.
I'd settle for a really good video, AP.
I don't know. I feel like I feel like a book would be. I don't know. And the idea of the book is very good, and the outline is very good too. It's just, yeah.
Hey, you should do what they do and like totally make stuff up.
Yeah.
Like Yusuf Estes, he never had any sort of position or anything else. Same thing with Yusha Evans. They're all following the same pattern where they'll say they were a Christian minister, right?
Yeah.
Which technically, anyone who ever did anything for a church can call themselves a minister, right?
Okay.
But they know that people interpret that as I was like a priest or a pastor or something like that. They know it gets interpreted. So then once they say, I was a minister, then all the Muslim community runs around saying, and he was a pastor, he was a priest, and so on. And you listen to these guys and it's complete nonsense. And then they like make up these stories about how, all this powerful evidence they found for Islam and so on. And how they were. So you should be like, I was a Muslim scholar. I was a Muslim scholar for many years. I was one of the most respected Muslim scholars in the world. And then I dedicated 50 years of my life to researching religions. And then I concluded that Islam is false.
Yeah. I should do that. People call me a scholar. Some people will say, AP, you are such a great scholar.
Possibly the best scholar ever.
Isn't that so slimy?
that is pure narcissism there, man.
Yes, man. That this guy I don't get it. I mean, if I listen to people like that who say, no, some people might say, Zakir Naik, you give such good speech on science with 100% solid proof, I would say, oh, okay, I'm done here. Like, I don't want to listen to some guy who's praising himself in our, with our mouths, in our words. But no, people actually think this is impressive stuff.
Zakir Naik. People say, Zakir Naik, how can you be so physically imposing with your powerful muscles?
It's impressive.
Very powerful.
I just want David's contact info for spiritual guidance. Please, how can I contact you? I think you need to contact David.
Go to the Answering Islam website, and you can get my email address there. I don't like saying it in various places because there are bots picking stuff up and so on. And then all of a sudden you get like a million messages from trolls and stuff, or bots trying to sell me stuff.
Also, jinns are often around and they try to pick up the email address and stuff like that.
Yeah, so go to answeringislam.net, go to the individual authors page, and you can get my email there.
Yeah. Now, David's just acting like he's a big author.
Good von Sloot says, David, I just want to contact you.
Contact you.
You might say you want to contact me because of my brilliant lectures and my powerful science lessons.
Shine Varman Zadigan with a beautiful symbol of the Zoroastrian sign of the spirit, which they actually adopted from ancient Mesopotamia, which is called Faravar. I even have a symbol of that somewhere here. I'm such a nerd right now. Said Zakir Naik is heavily influenced and inspired by Swiss writer Giorgio A. Tsoukalos. Isn't that the guy who Tsoukalos? Isn't that the guy with the from that aliens meme?
He's kind of mad scientist looking, but yeah, he does UFO stuff.
There's that meme where of him going like this, and it says aliens or something like that. Yeah, he has the cover on that, Ancient Aliens. He believes in that thing, I think, that he proposes that whole hypothesis of ancient aliens or something like that. That's funny. That is pretty good. Pretty good. Sarah Durst said, AP, you are so amazing. AP, amazing, so brilliant, so smart, so eloquent, so fantastic. There's no better YouTuber than you and no better speaker and streamer than you. Did you actually copy what I said earlier? I feel this sounds like that's exactly what I said.
What's funny is you can use that in a future video, or you can say, for instance, people say to me, AP, you're so amazing, so brilliant, so smart, so eloquent, so fantastic. There's no better YouTube than you. What's funny, it kind of sounds like Trump, right? People say to me, AP, you're so amazing, so brilliant, so smart, so eloquent, so fantastic. There's no better YouTuber than you, no better speaker, no better streamer.
A tremendous speaker, yeah. Frankly. That's
frankly.
I will take this super chat and use it as a reference in the future when I apply for a job. SG, how much percent of the chat room will become Muslim now? I would say 100%.
I would say 100% of 80%.
Shai Rahman said AP and David Wood, could you please explain the miracle in Sahih Muslim 2277? Is it going to be something dumb again? What do you say?
This is like that last one, the leather strap.
Oh boy, it's this one. Okay, it's not too bad here. I recognize the stone in Mecca, which used to pay me salutations before my advent as a prophet, and I recognize that even now. So this is Muhammad recognizing a stone that would greet him in Mecca, even before he was a prophet, and even now as a prophet, I still recognize that it salutates him. Wow, it salutes him. Mm-hmm. What do you think about this great miracle, David?
Well, I mean, it does explain a lot of their beliefs about like the black stone and so on, that Muhammad just believed, a random rock could greet him when he walked by. Hey, Muhammad, what's up? Hey, what's up, rock? Yo, hey, Muhammad, how's things going with that child bride? What?
And he was like, hey, what's up, Dwayne?
Stone.
Yeah.
Looks like someone was smoking a rock here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Man. This is funny. So this is just supporting evidence that there was probably something wrong with Muhammad, mentally speaking.
That does look like what that is.
I mean, imagine you take this and think, wow, look at this. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was a stone that would greet him. Even the stone was aware of the powerful prophethood of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Whereas if a regular person said, hey, every day that I walk to work, there's this stone and it keeps saying hello to me, you would think, okay, dude, you need to see a doctor. You need to see a psychiatrist.
Yeah, so notice if you believe in God, then you believe that God could make a rock speak, right? So that would be one thing. Like even with the black stone, and they're saying, at the judgment, this black stone is going to come alive. You could kind of say, okay, well, can't God make that black stone come? But when you actually read the Muslim sources, he seems to get the impression that these things are just alive and conscious and have thoughts and can communicate like this. Yeah. Like rocks and trees and so. And notice, I mean, so notice when it's rocks and trees. Let me give an example. When Jesus says, when people are praising Jesus as if he's God, and people warn him, say, "Hey, look what they're saying," and he says, "If they weren't saying it, the stones would cry out." I've never met a Christian who thinks Jesus is actually claiming that these rocks would start saying these things.
Well, it makes complete sense.
That would be considered a form of like hyperbolic language. And so when you read Muslim passages, when I read Muslim passages as a Christian, and then then Muhammad says that, the last judgment will not come until you kill the Jews. And even if a Jew is hiding behind a tree or a rock, the tree or the rock will cry out, "Hey, there's a Jew hiding behind me, come kill him." There's a tendency to think, oh, the killing is just going to be so bad and so brutal that they can use this hyperbolic language about rocks and trees and so on. But when you read Muhammad's actual thoughts on rocks and trees, it really seems like he believes that rocks and trees are conscious and are talking to him all the time. So he seems to think that this is what's going on. So anyway,
as a Muslim, especially with a spirit with a very spiritual mystical background. I actually used to believe that rocks, grass, trees, everything is possibly conscious and can possibly tell things to you, because that's what Islam teaches you.
Grass.
Grass, yeah.
Seems like you've been smoking a little grass. If you thought.
Yeah. He's talking about the rock. I mean, I know that's why I said he's saying, "Oh, hi, Dwayne," like Dwayne Johnson, the Rock. That's what Muhammad was saying to this stone. But yeah, good. Anyway, D Boudreau, hey D, what's up? D is here always. Appreciate you. More Prophet Tales, please. Yeah, I agree. There should be more Prophet Tales episodes, because I think that show was great. I don't know why they didn't continue. But that show was very funny. It was very good. I really love it, and I hope there will be more episodes of that as well. Thank you, D. Somebody with a Korean name, which I cannot possibly read, though, with a euro currency super chat. Is that a euro? I think that's euro. Yeah. With no message in it at all, made a super chat, and this just makes me think this is a European person who's pretending to be Korean. It's just being an imposter here. How dare
they
you?
cut and pasted that stuff.
Yeah. How dare you? How dare you? But I appreciate it. Thank you very much for your contributions. All right, with that little bit of rudeness, I think we have come to another end of another episode. Unfortunately, powerful episode in which we have been convinced that the Quran is indeed ahead of science.
And notice yet again, I mean, how many times have we done this? We actually open up our channels for dawah.
Yeah.
We say, hey, let's see the dawah, and we go through their videos that they praise as brilliant and awesome, and it turns out to be pretty bad and terrible.
That is true. Zaid al-Hindawi said the Illuminati will prevail and all religions will be doomed. Absolutely, brother. Greetings to my friends over at the Illuminati, who have been doing a great job supporting this channel and helping me get where I am so far, who are giving me all kinds of support in these trying times as a YouTube creator. Thanks, Illuminati guys. AP, can you explain Surah Ibn Majah 4099? Ibn Majah 4099. I'm expecting a Farid video now about. AP admits. And look at this video. Here in this video, Apostate Prophet admits that he's working for the Illuminati. I have been saying this the entire time. The hour will not begin until you fight the people with small eyes and white faces, as if their eyes are the pupils of locusts, and as if their faces are hammered shields. They will be wearing shoes of hair, using leather shields, and tying their horses to date palm trees. This is allegedly a hadith about Turks.
That's what I thought. I wasn't sure about that, but I remembered I thought this was about Turks.
Yeah, it is supposed to be about Turks. It sounds to me more like Mongols for some reason. Could be about anything. In my opinion, for the longest time, I thought that this hadith is completely made up, and that Muhammad actually never said any such thing. So this is one of those hadiths where it is talking about future encounters with different people, and there's just no reason for him to say it, and it's completely ambiguous. Can refer to anything.
And by the time these hadiths are written down, it's already happened that you fought these kind of people, and it's just like, oh look, Muhammad predicted this battle that we just fought the other day. Yeah,
exactly. That would be very convenient to say, but yeah, no, people say that that this is about Turks, and they used to have these faces. Their faces are hammered shields and stuff like that, and I don't look like that.
I have to say the Muslim sources sound a bit racist the way they're pointing out all these features of people.
To be fair, Turks at that time look nothing like Turks today. Turks at that time looked like Mongols today. They had they had the eyes and different structures and faces. The Turks today are just a result of mixing with Persians and
Bull, your face looks like a hammered shield, and you've got your tiny little pupils. Like, wait, what did it say?
pupils of locusts.
Yeah, you got a pupil like a locust, man.
That's true.
Hey, locust pupil AP.
I have small eyes. Let's put this on the screen here. I have small eyes here. The hour will not begin until you fight people with small eyes. So small eyes. Here, I have small eyes. That's confirmed. When I smile, my eyes almost completely disappear. Wide faces. Eyes are like the pupils of locusts. I have no idea what the pupils of locusts are like, but sounds.
Oh, you know, just look in a mirror, buddy.
Yeah. And their faces are hammered shields. My face is indeed a hammered shield. Whenever people punched me, it never hurt me. It always hurt them. Some people broke their hands just trying to hit me, trying to hurt me.
They'll be wearing shoes of hair.
They will be wearing shoes of hair. I'm wearing shoes of hair right now, honestly. Using leather shields and tying their horses to date palm trees. I don't have a horse anymore and no palm trees here, but that's what I would do if I did have a horse today. So yeah, sounds about right.
Powerful
Stuff. And it says chapter the Turks. Yeah, powerful stuff. Wow. All right. So hey, did you know that have you ever studied the character? I recently made a tweet about this. That character that is often referred to as a demonic or occultist idol, Baphomet, that is actually historically thought to be a complete made up creation in the 14th century. That historians agree that the name of it is actually, the name Baphomet is actually an alteration of Muhammad, whom they would call Mahomet. So Baphomet is for Mahomet.
Well, yeah, I mean, keep in mind they say Mecca is Becca, right? So
Yeah,
you can just switch those M's and B's anytime you want.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing. Now, the historians usually argue that that this character, that is idol Baphomet, which is this often used demonic, satanic-looking thing, was created as a fantasy or just to intentionally accuse the Knights Templar, who were hated at that time, of worshiping these demons and then framing them and getting rid of them. But you could argue that the historians are actually wrong, and that the fact that the names of Baphomet and Muhammad are so similar in those times is actually evidence that Muhammad is a demon, right?
Yep. In matter of fact, you want to keep that one in your pocket for when they make some of these claims about, oh, look, Becca, that's clearly Mecca, and Mahmud, that's clearly Muhammad, and the word is similar, therefore it's Muhammad.
Yeah.
Okay. Baphomet is Muhammad. Look at the picture. Kind of looks just like him.
Looks just like him. Yeah. It's exactly the same. This
like
is what
twin brothers.
I think this is what Muhammad actually looked like, as far as I understand it. From when I read the descriptions, this is kind of what it looked like. Let's bring this up here. This might be very similar to Muhammad here. This is actually what Muhammad may have looked like. And the names also sound similar, so why not? Yeah.
You got to get one of the white. Say Muhammad was white. There you go. That one's better.
Yeah. This is from Wikipedia, I think. Yeah. Even has boobies. And
look, he's pointing to the crescent moon. See that?
See, this is clear. See, here's a moon. There's a moon.
And he's doing the more accurate two fingers. See, like ISIS and stuff, they do the one finger, but in reality, they know it's Allah and Muhammad. So you're supposed to do two fingers.
Huh. This is interesting. This clearly proves that this is actually Muhammad. You
should make an argument about how Baphomet is Muhammad, but make it like one of theirs where you're pointing out all these little details and stuff like this, and you say, "Hey, this is the proof. The proof."
If you study this, you could probably find a lot more stuff that you could just say, look, this clearly shows that this is about, like, even the wings. Maybe when Muhammad went to the cave and he saw this scary creature with wings, it was actually his inner demon appearing to himself and giving him these commands and stuff like that. Anyway, if you want to go that route, there's a lot here. With that out of the way, now that we have also shown that Muhammad is Baphomet, one other fantastic day comes to an end, and hereby, if you still haven't been convinced by Zakir Naik's brilliant proof, if you still haven't converted to Islam by this point, shame on you. What is wrong with you? Go see a doctor. For the rest of you, welcome to your new faith. And David, anything else that you want to add before we leave?
Stay away from Baphomet.
Stay away from Baphomet.
And by Baphomet, I mean Muhammad.
We have the evidence, so yeah.
I'm looking at it right now. that the medieval Christians refer to Muhammad as Baphomet.
Yeah. I think Voltaire wrote about him as Muhammad and others too. But have a good day, and as always, listen to the guy who will tell you what you need to do for the rest of your life.
Stay away from Islam.